Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Much appreciated. Hope we can have an interesting conversation today. I will run through a PowerPoint, but I'd like to save a little time at the end if I can do this to have some discussion about this. I think it's a very relevant topic to this conference, to where we all are, to what's coming. We do have to be thinking about the future, and things are changing very, very rapidly, and I think much more so than we realize at the moment. I'm sure you're all aware with Google Glass and a few of the other things, Fitbit, some of the other wearable tech that's out there, but there's a lot more coming down the pike. See it in New York all the time at meetups, stuff that's in production, that's in process, that there's just demo models. And we're going to get hit with an avalanche of wearable devices in the next year. So what this is to kind of go through where we are right now, look at what is already happening with education on this, and a little speculation about exactly where we may end up in the future on this, okay? So first of all, we'll just go through some of the devices that are out there. I'm sure you're all familiar with Glass, a couple of others that are being used. Some of them, like Vuzix, gets much more use in industry, Amazon warehouses, places like that. Then here, Meta 3D glasses, which are already out in development mode, not here yet. The consumer version is supposed to be out in the fall. Oculus Rift, I'm sure you've all heard about, especially with the Facebook buyout. And of course, Narrative Clip, which I'm wearing, we'll talk about shortly. I have this on right now, and you can take a look at this later on. And then again, the challenges, the environment, and where we're going in the future on this. Why wearable tech is attractive. There's a number of things here, of course, that are very compelling about it. The fact that it tends to be always on, that we're going to talk about right now, that doesn't tend to happen because of battery life, but that you can end up with continuous data capture, personalization, location aware, that we start to have GPS devices as opposed to Wi-Fi. The ability to augment reality, which I think is fascinating in terms of the learning environment, and the fact that all of this begins to become hands-free and nearly transparent. It's pretty easy to walk around with Narrative Clip and have people not even notice that you're actually wearing it. Some things, of course, like Glass seem very, very obvious, but I think that's just a transitional device till we end up with stuff that's in our eyeglasses, and then we're going to be walking around not knowing if somebody actually just has a regular pair of eyeglasses on, or if they, in fact, are using a wearable device. There's a long history here, as some of you are no doubt aware. It goes back to Steve Mann's very early work, and Steve Mann at one point kind of looked like somebody from outer space, like or a wacko guy that was fascinated by outer space, wearing these odd contraption helmets. I remember seeing him in Florence one time, I think sometime in the late 80s or early 90s, and sort of walking down the street and going, oh my goodness, there he is. And he was probably wearing 15 pounds worth of gear, including battery packs and everything else, and he was filming, of course, his trip through Florence, through Italy at the time. And it's something like that is just remarkable, of course, because it has shrunk down so much. Even his own devices have shrunk down basically to a pair of eyeglasses and what is almost like an eye implant that he uses these days. But he has been at the forefront of this and still very much part of these developments. There's a whole, of course, massive growth coming out right now. The big part of the market is really in sports, in activity trackers, fitness trackers, the big blue purpley circle up at the top. The smartwatches, the smart clothing, much less at the market right now, but those are the ones that are projected to grow the fastest by 400, 500% over the next couple of years. So let's take a look at some of the wearable devices that are out here already, and some of them, again, are just in development. They're not on the consumer market, but they'll be here shortly. Google Glass started out, of course, as a somewhat bulky device, literally as a pair of eyeglasses with two circuit boards taped on, one on each side. You know, you look at something like that and you go, no, that's just not going to do. That's not going anywhere. But of course, this is how fast the technology is changing. The developments that this could come out, this could looked like this a year or so before Glass finally came out in the Explorer program. This is Isabel Olsen, one of the designers of Google Glass, and they literally were doing mock-ups in the lab initially, like taking circuit boards and duct tape and just taping them on the glasses and see what would work. And the end result of course, all that research ended up being something that was much more sleek. A lot of people would not say stylish, but nonetheless, it is what it is, okay? You either like it or hate it. It seems to be nobody's neutral about glass. The Explorer program, of course, a high-resolution display on this now is pretty much available to anyone, equivalent to a 25-inch screen from 8 feet away, a 5-megapixel camera, video, 720p. You can search, you can do email, photos, video, news, directions, and of course there is an increasingly large ecosystem of apps that are developing around this. And in the end, that's going to be critical to any of the wearable tech, to the success of wearable technology, just as it is with our phones. You go out, you buy a phone, but what do you do as soon as you have the phone? You start downloading apps, or you re-download all your apps from your previous phone, right? So it's really not the device itself, it's all the associated apps that go with it. Vuzix, which has been, again, very popular in industry right now, but is moving into the consumer market, I think sometime this fall. It's a smaller little thing that kind of fits on the side, it fits on your ear and kind of comes out the front, equivalent to a 4-inch smartphone screen held at about 14 inches. Again, high-def camera, video. It runs local, but it's designed to be tethered to an Android device, so they're kind of getting around some of the issues with wearables, some of the challenges in terms of hardware by saying you can do this separately, but it makes much more sense to tether it to your phone because then, of course, it has longer battery life, it has much better storage. The more interesting thing that's coming, and it's going to be, if you thought Google Glass was expensive at $1,500, Meta 3D glasses is going to be available for $3,000. So you're going to pay a lot more if you want this one. True augmented holographic reality glasses. Basically, this is wired to a small computer that sits in your pocket or your vest pocket because you just simply, you cannot do the kind of processing right now within the glasses that it does. It really has to have a little separate device that really is sort of the size of an external drive, if you will. It's not a large computer, but nonetheless it is something you would have to carry with you. And can take a look here at short little video on this.
Wearable and gestural computing have been in development for over 40 years. But in the last few months, things have started heating up, and now they're about to boil. We had seen screens that you wore over one eye, and we had seen dancing games played on TV, but something was still missing. So in 2011, we created and began setting the scene for an amazing two-part system. The first part is a wearable dual-screen 3D interface, and the second is gestural input with super low latency. We allow full mapping and tracking of your environment. This is true augmented reality, not just pop-ups in the corner of your eye. We stick 3D data to pieces of the real world. And best of all, you can pick these pieces up and hack them with your hands. Meta has the technology to make this happen. And it will be made available very soon, earlier than you might think. Our first dev kits will go to those with the most passion, those who are psyched to break the limits of what's possible with computers. And once we have a fleet of great 3D apps, we'll release them to the public, along with our next generation glasses. What 3D content would you create with true depth, richer than a 3D movie? If you could summon a portal in your living room, what worlds would you see? Minecraft? A virtual outfitting boutique? Or how about a DJ booth? What would you create if you could craft anything with your hands in virtual space, no matter where you are? Be among the first to show the world what the future of computing will be. So get started with Meta. Make a sweet app, because we're not stopping here.
kind of makes your phone look a little antiquated, doesn't it? Can't quite do that with my iPhone yet. It's coming. Of course, proof is always in the actual object. We have to see what it looks like when it's done and how low latency it actually is. But it's fascinating in terms of development because it is real interaction with everything. Your world turns into a virtual world with something like that. So. Oculus Rift, of course, with the big buyout from Facebook, a virtual reality head-mounted display. Again, this is right now, this has to be tethered to a computer, not right at the moment, not even something that sits in your pocket, but something that's going to sit on a desk. I think eventually, as it develops, though, it will reach the point that be able to carry around a smaller computer in your pocket. And we'll look at some of the kind of solutions here on the issues to this, because it's just a lot of this, of course, requires tremendous processing power, and that, of course, means tremendous battery capacity is required for it. It's a short little video on the Oculus.
I am here with Palmer Luckey, the creator of Oculus Rift and founder of Oculus VR. So, first question, this has all come on pretty quick. What is CES like now, like over the years, compared to where you were 2 years ago?
It's kind of nice because the people that before you couldn't talk to are now actually trying to get in touch with you. So it's really fun to be able to connect with companies, and I think a lot of people are taking VR seriously. So it's not just this crazy wacky thing. Now that it's actually a real movement. It's not just Oculus, but so many companies working on AR and VR. Mm-hmm. It's really fun to come, and then all of a sudden there's all this AR and VR stuff at CES.
There's a lot of hype and a lot of people though saying that this is the future of gaming. Do you see it that way, or is this just one possible and one extension of gaming in the future?
I definitely think it's an extension. I don't think it's the way that we'll be gaming. I mean, I think mobile gaming will stay around, handheld systems will stay around for a long time. Mm-hmm. People still even play board games because there's a certain type of experience that is best, having this physical board game there. I think it's going to be an addition to the gaming ecosystem rather than, squeezing everything out.
And finally, do you see your particular VR going into other fields beyond gaming?
It already is. I mean, I was working in VR on, the more academic side before doing Oculus. But that whole time, it's continued to be used in the professional market. The military's kept using it. There's a lot of medical applications, emergency and first responders like police and firemen have been using it for training. And large companies have been using it for data visualization, computer modeling and design. So it's been in use. It's just been crazy expensive systems that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Gaming is really the new market where you say, oh, will it move to other applications? In a way, this is moving from those applications, everything else, into gaming. And gaming is one of the hardest markets to get into because you have to be really good to convince your average consumer to use this thing. You can't have it be $100,000. You can't have it be heavy and bulky and hard to use.
Right.
It really has to be a well-integrated experience. So it's really moving from everything else into gaming.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I would wish you luck, but I don't think you need it.
I need
Well, then I wish it.
All right.
Don't know if he needs the luck. He does have the money now. Narrative clip. This is narrative clip right here. Some of you are familiar with this. Some of you might not be. If you want to come up and take a look at it after. It's very, very small, as you can see, less than 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, less than half an inch wide. Doesn't quite work as a tie clip yet, but we're getting there. Timestamp, geotagged photos. It does a photo every 30 seconds. Just automatically. In fact, you can't turn it off. The only way you could turn it off is literally to put it face down. I have had it at home and set it down on a coffee table and then realized the next day all I did was take photos of the ceiling all night. Well, not all night because it doesn't take good photos in the evening, but it's a kind of strange device because our phones, everything else kind of goes to sleep or has an on-off switch. This literally doesn't. Unless you turn it down, it just keeps taking photos wherever you are, which is fascinating because it's a very different way of doing photographs. We're still, even though we take millions of more photographs than we ever used to, we're still taking out a device to take our photographs for the most part. We're taking out our smartphones and we're holding them up and we're actually doing the photo. This is just doing it automatically without you even thinking about it, which means you get a lot of very crappy photos, number one. Okay, this is going to happen. And then it takes and it uploads all these. It basically lasts for 2 days, so you can wear it all day long, wear it for a second day, and then you plug it in a computer. It does not save locally. It goes into the cloud, into an account, and then you have it there and it tries to organize the photos for you. Wow. This was a Kickstarter project, and it's been extremely successful.
Life rushes by, and you just try to keep up. But too often, you can't recall what you did last summer, or last weekend, or even last morning. We try to capture the moments we think are special or important. Birthdays, weddings, holidays, things like that. But the most important moments are the ones you didn't realize were moments until afterwards.
The birth of my daughter, for me, that was the greatest day of my life.
Maybe when my first boyfriend kissed me. I know where it was. It was by the beach, because we had a beach party, and we sat next to each other, and then he leaned over and he kissed me. Beautiful.
Well, I'm thinking, of course, of the moment that we met.
My 21st birthday at the casino, spending time with my mom, because that's a moment that I can't get back. She passed away a month after then, so yeah, that would definitely be my best moment.
Every moment counts. Every second, every day. Breakfast with my girlfriend, seeing my nephews, just hanging out with my friends. That's what life is really all about.
For me, it would be right now, with my kids.
One time we throw ketchup at people, just spontaneous. That kind of evil, but I don't know. We thought it was funny, so.
Last weekend when I met some girl.
I saw Patti Smith, like, that was 2 years ago. And my life was chaos, but when I saw that concert, it was like, everything else just blew away.
We all want to live in the present. Every moment is worth keeping. What if you could relive any moment of your life?
It's kind of fascinating thought, isn't it? That every moment is worth keeping, and that, you know, any single thing you could go back to later on at another time. And again, it is very different. I mean, I live in New York City, I'm at college in New Rochelle, so of course I do 2 subways and Metro North every day and a walk. I have a long, long commute. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes. And, you know, one of the things, well, I really have to try this out. When I first got it, you know, and I try it out, I wear it on the way up to the college, I wear it on the way home that day, and then I take a look at it online and I go, oh my God, that was the most boring set of photographs ever, you know? It's absolutely nothing. It's the back of the seat in front of me. It's getting on and off the train. It's, you know, people sitting on the subway across from me, stuff like that. But then I stopped and looked at it again and thought, as here, someday down the road, you know, 20 or 30 years from now, that will actually be kind of amazing to have that, because I will be thinking of those moments of, you know, running through Grand Central every day, stopping at the same coffee shop, grabbing a coffee from the woman that knows me there and how I like it, and grabbing it and running to get my train. And it will actually be fascinating to go back and relive that. But doing it for the moment now, in the way that we might pull out a camera and take a photograph of something and then look at it tonight or something, not at all in the same kind of way. So it's just fascinating in the way that it works. It gets loaded upline. You do have a private account with the device, and you can share photos. You can individual ones or entire group. Everything gets organized by moments. We'll talk about this a little bit later, because actually what it does is it's using algorithms to try to pick out what are the most important moments of the whole sequence of photographs, which is kind of fascinating, because up to now we usually go, we're the ones that can pick out the most important photographs in a group of photographs, right? In terms of the challenges with wearable technology, and there's many, many, many of them, of course, from privacy issues and a host of other ones, but initially, let's just say up front, it's battery life, okay? Sheer and simple. Not so much with something like this, because all this is doing is snapping a photograph every 30 seconds, and it's a 5-megapixel one. It's not that much. But with Google Glass, as you know, it doesn't last all that long. Most of the other wearables run into the same kind of situation. Samsung, everybody's doing a lot of work on this. Tesla is also. I think there's actually going to be a lot of benefits from the electric car technology, because they are starting to hook up their research right now with Panasonic, which of course has for the longest time done batteries for laptops. And I think eventually what ends up being done for electric cars will kind of filter down into new battery technologies for wearable devices. If you look at it right now, Samsung's got a nice new battery out for wearables, 210 milliamp hours. Compare that to your smartphone, it's barely 1/8 the size of something like that. Progress here is incredibly slow. If you take the iPhone as an illustration, the battery has increased about 12% over the past 6 years. The processor now is 40 times faster than the original iPhone. So now imagine if the battery was 40 times the original capacity of that. So that's what's kind of holding things back on this. There's a patchwork of add-ons and sort of efforts to kind of work their way around this. PWR Glass is an add-on developed for Google Glass by an inventor that, of course, got Glass and said, this just isn't going to do, that it's going to run out after an hour of doing video. And basically, it's like an eyeglass strap that sort of plugs into the back of Google Glass, and it serves as an additional battery pack. It gives you 3 times the battery life that Glass has natively in itself. Lenovo's come out with something. They basically want to wrap a battery pack around your neck. You would just wear it. I know. If you think wearing the wearable tech, now you're going to wear the wearable tech, you're going to have to wear the battery too, right? At least for the moment. And their idea is, well, you're just going to simply drape this thing over your shoulder and put your shirt over it, and sort of a new form of shoulder pads, if you will, okay? It's going to be a very different kind of thing. This was just announced last week. Of course, you look at the design here, and they're emulating Google Glass exactly, but trying to do it in such a way that you're going to be able to, just have it much longer. I love that it's got the little wire going down the back, though, because you feel like you could just go up to somebody and yank it out of the back and stop there, put an end to their wearable tech if you needed to. Pivot Head, which has been out but just came out with a new product last week at the Wearable Tech Expo in New York. I got a chance to demo and try out. Basically, it's just taking a different approach, which is they're just working on a device that does video but doesn't really have a display. So you're not really consuming video, it's just a production device. And it's a set of eyeglasses with full HD video, 8 megapixel images, configurable, customizable lens, upgradable memory, touch control on the side of the frame, Bluetooth, an internal battery. But what's fascinating about this is that it has what are known as pods on the back. And so you can add these pods, one of which gives you Wi-Fi, so you can do live streaming. I saw somebody live streaming from Times Square into the Javits Convention Center. It wasn't that great, but that was more a Wi-Fi issue than it was anything else. But it was kind of fascinating, because instead of having to tether to your phone, you're streaming directly from glasses. And the other thing is you can get another pod which gives you a new battery, and it's hot swappable. So I guess you could literally, with the glasses on, yank the pod off and put a new one on and continue to video record. So it's interesting on that. Wearables, of course, are going to become fashion accessories. Misfit Shine is probably one of the more interesting fitness wearables right now, because they've tried to do something that looks a lot like jewelry. And we're going to end up with stuff, I think, all over our bodies that, well, especially our students will, right? Wearing everything that does absolutely anything. This tracks your sleep patterns. It tracks you when you're awake. The nice thing about Misfit Shine, of course, is unlike Fitbit and some of the others. It doesn't have to be charged on a regular basis. Again, it doesn't do a lot, but what it does is it does very well, sort of like narrative clip. And it's actually a fairly beautiful piece. It's the kind of thing where you can see people starting to wear. And don't always think glasses and wristbands and jewelry. Think shoes. This was just announced this week. The Lechao shoe is the brainchild of 2 engineering students in India, and originally designed to help visually impaired people. Basically, it will tether to a smartphone and tether to Google Maps and give you directions through your feet. So you don't have to hold your phone out in front of you with your map up. You will just get vibrations in your shoes to tell you where to go. And the first thing I read this last week, I was thinking of those early days of people doing GPS and driving onto the railroad tracks in their car, you know. Now I'm wondering what someone's going to do walking down the street and, you know, suddenly turn and head off into heaven knows what, because their shoe said turn right, turn left, or something like that. It's just a new world. We're going to adjust to it, but it's going to require some changes, obviously. So, and this is both, you don't have to get the red shoes. There's an insert that you can do too. So you don't have to look like, you know, Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz or something, or whatever it might be. Anyways, so in terms of the learning environment, and I think this is where it really gets interesting, because all this stuff is coming up right now, and it's going to have a huge impact on our lives, on our work, on our institutions. Obviously, wearables provide first-person video, they provide hands-free documentation, they help integrate social media into everything, makes it very easy to connect with others because you can tweet directly from your wearable, you don't have to pull out your phone and do it that way. Virtual field trips become possible, might bring about an end to sort of traditional video conferencing, easier to bring in outside experts. So there's a whole host of things that are starting to surface now as people are playing with these. There's a number of apps for Google Glass in education. There needs to be more, but things are being developed. And again, the app ecosystem here is what is critically important, because it's not the device, it's what you can do with the device, and the device is only going to act really according to the kind of applications that you have with it. In terms of virtual field trips and first-person perspective videos, Andrew Hovell has taken his students on field trips to European virtual field trips to the European Organization for Nuclear Research in Switzerland.
I think it's back here. There it is. Would have been cool to be an astronaut.
My name is Andrew Van Heuvel. I'm a physics teacher from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Through college, I was embarrassed to tell people that I wanted to be an astronaut. It's like I want to be a princess who rides horses while being a police officer or something. It's just like, it's ridiculous.
I found my passion in teaching.
Can you say conservation of angular momentum?
I'm what you'd call a non-traditional teacher. I teach primarily online for students whose schools can't offer advanced physics courses. To be a glass explorer means I get to tie together all the things that are most engaging about learning. You know, making every moment a teachable moment.
The first thing I'm planning to do with glass is take students with me on a virtual field trip as I go to CERN in Switzerland. I'm excited to be here.
All right, here we go.
Holy cow! Wow. Okay, I want to try to get my brother's class in on this. Okay, Glass. Hang out with Ryan's class. Wow. Hello, everybody. Hi, Drew. Welcome to CERN. We made it. We're here. This is the CMS. That's incredible. This is one of the most complex machines ever made. Wow. Very exciting. If we want to see back to the very beginning of the universe, the only way we can do that is with a beautiful machine like this. This tunnel is 27 kilometers long.
Fewer people have ridden a bike here than have climbed Mount Everest.
Crazy.
Does anybody have any questions?
John, how long does it take a proton to travel the whole loop?
How cold do the magnets have to be superconducting?
What is that?
If you added up all the protons in this entire tunnel, it would fit into the space of just one single grain of sand. We can say goodbye to our trusty bike here. Bye. Thank you, Steve and Freddie. See you. It's been a pleasure. All right, I'll see you guys when I get back in Michigan.
Even though I may never go to space, I still feel like I got a chance to be an explorer here at CERN.
Unbelievable.
And, you know, while I wasn't wearing a spacesuit, at least I got to wear, like, you know, a hard hat and glass.
Woohoo! Dude, this is amazing.
It's fascinating, the kind of stuff you can do with that. And I'm always saying I have very few faculty that are using any kind of wearable tech at the moment, but I'm still saying to them, why don't you, instead of you doing the video of you sitting in your office, why don't you go down to Times Square and talk about what you see as a sociologist, as opposed to just talk about sociology from the office or from our little integrity studio in our building, and just get out in the field and do it. I do have a couple people that are using Narrative Clip to do that, but that's a little different. They're not really doing the video. So I think we're going to move into an era of much more experiential learning, or kind of virtual experiential learning. You look at things like the History Pin Project, for example, a collaborative effort to visualize the past and the present. Right now you can do that through a smartphone app, but of course that means getting out your phone and holding it up to the scene. And you're going to be able to do that through wearable devices, particularly once the battery life gets up there a little bit better. The short little video here of augmented reality scenarios, which I think is fascinating. Let me see if I can pull this up.
Hi, I'm Julian. I'm the CEO of Reuters. We're a company specialized in building applications for Android, iOS, and now for Google Glass. Today, we're going to show you the first ever augmented reality application for Google Glass. We hope you'll enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more Google Glass applications from Reuters.
I think it's fascinating. When you look at that, you just, it kind of even makes me rethink ebooks, because I know so many of us are working on that and saying we should have digital books, and I'm wondering if 10 years from now, instead of ebooks, what we end up having is an actual physical book that is the basis of a whole set of virtual experiences. Because we really don't know where all this is going, and what oftentimes seems as so important right now, further on in industrial revolution or technology revolution, something else, it's the unintended consequences that come out of that become incredibly important. So it does make you think about that. Street museum, again, walking down the street and just being able to pull up 19th century London. I think something like that, particularly as someone who loves history, would be absolutely amazing. But again, if you have to hold the device in front of you, it's not going to be nearly as effective as it will be when you can just tap your glasses and say, I want to see what London looked like in the 19th century, or New York, or whatever city you lived in or something. It would, I think, for our students, really make history come alive in a very different kind of way. And of course, in gaming, there's lots of developments here. Some of you may have seen this. This is Battlefield 5 on Google Glass. I won't do the whole thing. It's a lot of shooting, but gamers and the guns, but nonetheless, it's fascinating to watch a minute of it.
Hey, dude.
Hey, man. See ya.
Bye. Okay. Nice. Whoa. Rig. Breaking the law, breaking the law.
Perfect. Load battlefield.
You know gamers, come on.
All right. Play, I'll go.
Yes. Let's go!
Bye-bye.
Okay, enough. You get the idea, but you're linking together the you know the virtual and the physical worlds in amazing kind of ways. And obviously, it doesn't just have to be used for video games. It could have a whole host of other applications. So to kind of wrap this up in terms of the future, and there's a lot of speculation here, and I'd love to hear what some of you think will happen on this. There's a lot of little things. They're not little things. I think they're big things to us right now that impacted. I really think that lecture capture would disappear if everybody can do it on their own. I'm not quite sure why the institution will need to do it at some point, because I think people will customize it and do whatever kind of lecture capture they want instead of saying, oh, it's got to come from the back of the room. I want the view from the side, I want from the front, or I only want 3 minutes of it. And instead of having to fast forward, skip through, or pull out elements of it, I'll just video what I want of the class, and that will be it. That would be nice in a way. Not that it's a huge headache for me, but nonetheless. I think class sessions will end up becoming open public spaces. I think it would be almost impossible. I still have faculty to say to me, that is my private space when I shut the door, that is my room, and I'm going to limit what can go on. I think at some point, 4 or 5 years down the road, it's going to be very, very difficult to do that, unless you just say to people, no more eyeglasses, and then you start body searching them for every other little thing they're wearing, because this is really big right now, okay? This is big. Give it 5 years, this is going to be probably the size of a button or something like that. It's going to become very, very hard. All interactions with students will end up being documented. I think I already say that to my staff as it is. Just assume that whatever you're doing is being filmed, that you're being recorded, because you know it could be. You know it absolutely could end up on YouTube, so you don't want to say the wrong thing or make a mistake. I think the boundaries between the campus and the community are going to be erased even more than they are now. We already have challenges with that. I was doing a course on the digital revolution in the spring semester, and I had adult undergrad students, of which 4 or 5 work in New York City schools. And of course, they were saying, walk in Monday morning and all hell has broken loose because of what happened Saturday and Sunday on social media. Days gone by, of course, you didn't have to deal with those issues. Now on Monday morning you do, because whatever happened on social media is alive and well and all over the place on Monday. And I had one student saying to me, we just would start with, okay, let's call the ones into the office we need to call, get their phones, call the parents in, and then we have to decide, do we bring in the police if it's really bad or something like that. And of course, there's a lot of virtual bullying that goes on and a lot that happens outside the campus, the institution, but it immediately ends up inside the institution. Social media and chat become the primary means of online communication. I think they already are. If you listen to the talk this morning about edX, right? Kids these days are not use email. What is that? You know, they'd much rather just chat. And I think the whole notion of data analytics and assessment is going to change dramatically. It has to, because we're going to have such volumes of data that our current forms of assessment are just not going to be adequate to the kind of information we have. And again, this morning it was a good case in point of now on edX you can sit there and do a quick study and pull the exact number of minutes that is ideal for a video, that if, you know, that is between 6 and 9 minutes and it starts to go over 12 minutes, and what happens? People watch part of it and then click off and go somewhere else. So we're going to have that kind of detailed granular data, which is utterly fascinating. But it's going to mean our current efforts on data analytics are really going to have to change. The future, of course, is not a faster horse, and I think that's right now what we sort of look for is the better phone. A better phone is the Henry Ford quote. We're going to get something very different than than a horse. And it's coming, and you see the reaction to Google Glass in many social environments, with it being banned in certain areas. There being fights, there being altercations over people wearing it. We're just in a very transitional, I would say we're at the cusp of a transitional time. I think it's going to get much more in the next year or two, much more intense. We're facing a tidal wave of data and images. It's absolutely staggering when you think about it. It is estimated right now that human beings have taken 3.8 trillion photographs since the invention of the camera in 1825. 10% of those photographs were taken last year. 10%, okay? And that's last year. It's only going to get worse. 3.8 billion, okay? And it is growing like mad. And some of you probably have an iPhoto, pile of stuff that you never end up getting to go back and go through because it's so much. And then when you start adding in other stuff and you add in glassware, it becomes even more so. There's 1 billion photos on Instagram. There's 300 million that are uploaded to Facebook every single day. All right, so we can't handle this on our own. I just don't know what we do with it. Narrative Clip, again, is a wonderful example. If you're wearing this little device, if you wore it all week long, you end up taking 1,800 images a day, 12,000 images a week. Unconsciously, okay? You upload all that, and what do you do with it? Well, the algorithms do something with it, but the algorithms aren't all that good, okay? They do what they can do, and they say, this is a moment. This must have been an important part of your life because there's a lot of photographs here. You were interacting with a lot of people. But then, it also does my ceiling and says that's a moment. And, it's, with all due respect to my wonderful apartment, it's really not a moment. Though it does get me sometimes to look at it and go, oh, brownstone. There are cracks in the building. That's scary. But anyways, this is the world that we are entering, and it's going to become all the more so, which, I still love to teach students how to do analysis of photographs and video, but I'm also it's just reaching a point where we're going to find the analysis is being done for us by algorithms because we're just simply so overwhelmed with images. The boundary, of course, between public and private vanishes. It already is. It's just going to get more so. We need a whole new etiquette for this. We've been dealing with debate ever since photography, ever since the Chicago Exposition, and ever since the invention of the Brownie camera, where people said, I'm not sure I want to give you permission to take my photograph, but we've come to accept certain things, but of course we still have certain social markers of that. I have to pull a device out of my pocket to photograph, well, not with this. So it's a little different. It is changing, but it's going to change all the more. And of course, what happens now is that along with the universal documentation comes global publication, because you can put anything online and it's suddenly there not just for your friends, it can be there for anyone to see, and that just has huge ramifications about the boundaries between what is public and what is private, and I don't know where we go on that in the end. Ray Kurzweil, the futurist, an absolutely wonderful quote, mobile phones are misnamed, they should be called gateways to human knowledge, because it's not about doing phone calls, and most of us use our phones for much more than doing phone calls. We really do use it to surf the web, to pull up information, for social media, for email. We're not taking phone calls. We're not making phone calls all that much with something that we still oddly enough call by a legacy term a phone. But if they're gateways to human knowledge, then wearable tech is, I would say, a gateway to a very different future. And we're going to get there whether we like it or not, and we're all going to have to grapple with it. So thank you very much. All right. Thanks. Are there questions or comments, anything at all, or do you just want to ponder the future? Yes, yeah, a couple. You're absolutely right. One of our biggest programs at the College of New Rochelle is nursing. Nursing has standardized exams by default. We don't have a choice because of certification. I go by in the late fall semester when people are getting to their exams, doing their exams, and I see a pile of clothes and bags and cell phones at the door of the classroom because faculty now are insisting that students leave everything. And I've already had faculty come to me and say they're using their jewelry. I know they got the answers because somebody aced the test and they were failing the course. And, and I go, I swear, I don't think, Misfit Shine doesn't do that yet. It only tracks your body. I don't really think anyone's communicating through their earrings yet, but they're just going, I can't stop it. And I go, I can't help you. I don't know what to say. And I think with some of the fields, it's not so bad. I always say to my faculty in the liberal arts, don't do a question you can Google. Don't. And I don't. I mean, my exams, I let students keep them. They float around the college. That's fine because I would do a different exam every time and a different question. But the challenge is going to be exactly in those fields where we're kind of forced into standardized testing. And I don't, I just go, what are they going to do? Like strip search them next? I don't know. But somebody, another question or comment? Yeah. That's true. You're right. You're right. Testing has to change. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, because you're right. I'm going to be able to pull it up in my glasses. What do I need to do here? Here's exactly what I should do. Here was a best practice. Here was what I shouldn't do. You're absolutely right. But, testing changes like accreditation. Right? Slowly. It's going to be the last to change. It's not going to happen first. And so we're just we're getting ahead of ourselves on this. But you're absolutely right. Down the road, I think we have to go. Because even with nursing, I mean, we see it now. Our students, they have so much data to master, which they are supposed to regurgitate on tests. And it's just simply becoming humanly impossible to master all of that. You really do need to be able to say, just go find it. But it has to be instantaneously findable. It can't be, oh, I have to go check it on a laptop back at the, my cubicle. It has to be right there in front of you. Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And people criticize printing for the same thing, right? I know, right? As Plato criticized writing for the same thing. We're not talking to each other. We're completely going to lose our minds here. Anyone else? Yes. I know. No, it's just going to be impossible, is it not? It really is. Yeah, I mean, the average college student right now is bringing 6.9, 6.7 devices that will be online to an institution when they go to college. It's 6 point something now. I'd give it a couple years, it'll probably be 15 or 20 because their earrings, their jewelry, their necklaces, everything else will be pinging stuff. And you're right, we're going to have to keep up with that, and I don't know how because we're going to run into problems with it. Yeah, we absolutely do, right? But it is, it is very much a wireless online world, and I live near the Google's Eastern headquarters in New York, and there's an Apple store there. And some other stuff in the area, Chelsea Market, and they all have free Wi-Fi. And you wear Google in that, when you wear Google Glass in that, it just suddenly comes to life because it's obviously it loves Wi-Fi because it wants to connect because there's not a whole lot it can do by itself. But when it can connect outward, and when it does so automatically with free Wi-Fi that it doesn't have to authenticate to, of course, we all go, nightmare, nightmare, how do we deal with this? Because we're all sitting there saying we've got to be able to lock stuff down. It becomes challenging, but it is fascinating because you see, you put Glass on and walk up Greenwich Avenue to 14th Street and you go, wow, Glass is very happy right now. It's doing what it likes to do. So, yeah. Yep. You guys got sun all the time there, right? I don't know if it would be solar panels, but people are talking about batteries that would actually generate power off of the heat of your body, your skin. So that might be a more logical kind of thing as opposed to then, Yeah, that's true. And solar panels, if you go back 50 years, I mean, I think there's something like 99% more efficient than they were in just in 50 years, which is a long time, but I think with Tesla and everybody else getting involved in this, we're going to see big changes of this in the near future. You do? Cool. Wow. All right. That's interesting. All right. I don't know. Interesting world. We'll see where we are in another year at the next conference. Thank you very much.